Hey everybody. So I know you guys have been waiting for the last 2 days for this particular panel to happen because it's lithium and it's not the boring stuff that isn't the energy of the future. I'm going to bring 4 guys up on stage today that have 4 companies that are here that are neck deep in the space. I see this as the new oil and gas, but lithium hasn't been without its problems over the last year. It sort of paralleled the rise of the weed industry a couple of years before, where everyone got really behind it really quickly. And then a whole bunch of people came in and put some yellow tape around cow paddocks and said, yeah, we're a lithium company too. And then it kind of petered off a little bit. So what we've got now is the second lithium wave. And the companies that we're bringing up here, we're hoping are a big part of that. So I'm going to ask them to come up. If you could, we have Lithium X. We have Neo Lithium, Iconic Minerals, and Millennial Lithium for you today. It's a 4-bagger already, 4 in 1. So I'm not going to explain lithium to you guys. You know what lithium is, and these guys know much better than I do. So we're going to get straight into it. What I'd like you guys to do, we're going to give 3 minutes for each of the individuals here to introduce themselves and their companies. And then at the end, Lithium X is going to buy one of them before your very eyes. So Brian, if we could start with you.
Sure. Good afternoon, guys. Brian Paes-Braga here, CEO and founder of Lithium X. Lithium X was founded almost 2 years ago now. We went public November 30th of 2015, as I get business cards here. And we have 2 projects. One is an advanced stage project in Argentina that has had about $20 million spent on it. We acquired that from a company called Aberdeen International out of Toronto, and we've advanced that quite quickly into what we believe to be the second in line here next to Sal de Vida, which is adjacent to us in Argentina. And we believe as a company that really this whole space is a race to production. That would be the theme that Lithium X is focused on. It's a small market right now, lithium. It's only about 160, 170,000 tons a year, and lots of projects with money being spent on them. But we believe that really having advanced stage projects, being focused on looking at permits and environmental issues, as well as really good delineation of the resource, along with flow rates and grade are really the important things down there. And then we hold the largest land position in Clayton Valley. And one of Chris's comments, which we'll get through later, is the oversaturation of Clayton Valley and how it seemed to be this theme early days, and everyone was racing to get a piece of the action. We firmly believe Clayton Valley has got great prospectivity over the long term, but it's going to need technology to advance to allow this lower grade brine to get into an economic scenario. So we look at Clayton Valley at Lithium X as a big call option on that technology working, and companies like Tesla and Sonova Bateman and Pure Energy advancing those quite quickly.
Hi, my name is Keturah Nathe. I'm VP of Corporate Development for Iconic Minerals. Iconic Minerals is a brine project. We have 3 brine projects based out of Nevada. Richard Kern, the president and CEO, was prospecting, and he believed that while there was certainly Albemarle was producing for the last 50 years and Clayton Valley has been the focus, he didn't believe that was autonomous, and he started looking at other opportunities outside of Clayton Valley. So we have 3 properties totaling 69,000 acres. Our most advanced project is the Bonnie Claire project, which is 23,000 acres. That's approximately about 60 kilometers from the Albemarle project or production facility. We're basically early stage exploration. We have 3.5 million that we spent on the project thus far. We have 2 drill holes with results. We're looking at implementing the next 4 drill holes. The results thus far, we've discovered that we actually have sediments that are highly leachable, up to 98% leachable, with an average grade of over 1,100 ppm. We're still exploring the brine prospects. We believe that we on our 35 square mile property that we have the opportunity to certainly explore the brines that we have, and as well as look at the implications to this new discovery for the sediments. We have 100% control of this property. We have the experienced technical team that can certainly carry this forward on a brine perspective. We have water rights that we've already got, have permits for. If we can actually produce out of two wells. We have the opportunity to actually use the water. This is certainly something that has been an issue in Clayton Valley, and we believe that this is certainly something that we can have an advantage on for going forward. While there is certainly, as Paz mentioned, that there's going to be a technology play in Nevada specifically, we believe that our perspective is that we have the opportunity to use the conventional method of a brine evaporation pond. We have the topographical low. This is certainly something that's proven, and this is something that we are certainly going to implement, and it's something that plays out or actually develops some technology, then this is something that we can also take advantage of.
Yeah, my name is Ian Scarr. I'm Vice President of Development and Exploration for Millennial Lithium. Millennial is, although we're the new kid on the block, we really just started mid last year. We're advancing very quickly. We have our flagship project is at Paes-Braga Solar in the center of the lithium belt in Argentina. We've advanced it already through to the first round of drilling, which we just completed. We'll be announcing the results in a day or two, which are very positive. The idea is to bring this project on in 3.5 years, because like my colleagues here, we all know that speed is the name of the game here. We have to get into it quickly. We're going to employ conventional technology. We'll get into cash flow as soon as we can. Then if we want to play around with new technology and refinements, we can do that out of cash flow, because now's the time to do it. We have a pipeline of projects. So we have Paes-Braga as our flagship project. We have Cauchari East, which is adjacent to Orocobre and Lithium Americas. And we have a new project that we'll be starting drilling on very shortly in Pocitos. We also have other projects and properties that are coming on to be announced shortly.
Hello, my name is Waldo Perez. I'm the President and CEO of Neo Lithium. Our company was created after the discovery of what is the only lithium lake known in America. There is only one producing mine, which is the lake, and it's in China, in Sabuye. This lake is contiguous to a very large salar. We hold a position of over 350,000 hectares. And this project, from surface results that were very complete, is actually the third highest grade lithium project in the world. It's also the lowest impurity content in any brine known in the world. And we just released the first drill hole chemical result that confirm these results down depth at least 77 meters. This is probably the major discovery since the discovery of Atacama. I invite you to know about it.
Thank you, everybody. So 4 interesting companies, 4 very different companies, 3 with Argentinian stakes and 1 not. What I'm going to ask you guys is, the first question for me is something that's always baffled me a little bit with the lithium space. Do you think that the average lithium investor actually knows what they're investing in? Go for it.
At least from my experience and what people ask questions, the answer is no. The advice is, if you are thinking about investing in lithium brines, remember, if you have 10 times more magnesium than lithium, that is not going in production ever. So it's more important that you ask how much magnesium your project has rather than how much lithium the project has. Because if you have magnesium, you're done. Sulfates, 2, they will increase significantly your operational cost. So you need to know the sulfide content. And if the company is not reporting that, maybe there is a reason for that. Finally, size. Brine is a liquid. So in a bucket, you can only fit so much liquid. So you need a big bucket, okay? As a corollary to that, porosity. Ask the company if they have done tests on porosity of that salar, because if the rock is not porous, the brine will not flow. So these are some issues that people need to take into account before investing that are not just related to the lithium grade, okay? They are related to things that are very relevant to the lithium business.
Brian, I'm going to ask Brian, since your company was, let's say not responsible, but very much encouraging of the lithium industry early on, and the money that was made brought in a lot of new investors to the space, perhaps some first-time resource investors. I'm going to ask you the same question. Where does it stand from your perspective of your investor base?
Yeah, so I think Waldo's spot on. Taking a few of those notes, he's absolutely right on the chemical composition of the actual brines. But what we felt the most important thing to do was to hire somebody that actually had been there and done that. And Waldo mentioned Salar de Atacama, which is the largest brine operation in the world, producing over 60,000 tons a year, probably going to 120,000 tons a year, which again represents more than half the market. And our chief operating officer, Eduardo Morales, developed from exploration to permitting to construction to production of 28,000 tons a year, a business that today does over $350 million a year in revenue. He built that. So I think Waldo's spot on with technical expertise, but as a retail investor or even an institutional investor in a space that is quite small, you need to bet on the jockeys that represent the company and they've put their name and track record behind them. That's what's most important, I think, to me.
Ian?
I will echo that. I wouldn't go in armed with just a menu list of questions to ask. The thing to ask is the experience behind. We have a fellow who was with FMC for 26 years. Vijay Mehta, who is very well known throughout the lithium space. If you want to ask, Vijay is always wide open, and he can tell you exactly what the characteristics of any particular project is. And I rely on Vijay quite heavily, and very encouraged by what he says. And if he says to do something differently, I'll do it differently.
Would you say that you're all still engaging in a learning curve with lithium? Because it's a relatively new craze on the investment side, but you've all been in resources for a while. Yeah. How big is the learning curve for you on that side?
Yeah, I'll add one more. Hello, sorry, I'll add one more thing. We got to take in consideration, especially in the resource space, to compare to oil and gas or copper or gold or coal. There's only a few actual projects in the world that produce all the world's lithium. So with that, you have a lack of talent, just by way of a number of projects. You can really count on one hand that produce all the world's lithium. And it's not like the oil and gas space where there's thousands of projects around the world, where there's a breadth of talent in terms of geologists and engineering. Really, it's a very, very, very tight space right now. Also creates the opportunity, but that is a very important thing, that you've got to rely on the people that have been there and done that before.
Yeah, I would agree with that. There's certainly a limited amount of information that's available. As Paz was saying, there is a history. You have precious metals that has hundreds of years of information to actually mine from, and this is a very limited field. There's also a lot of geological differences. You have obviously the South Americas. It's quite different than in hard rock. There's different types of lithium projects. You have the hard rock in Australia, and then of course in Nevada you have brines, but there's going to be some different geological compositions of that as well.
So talking about the difference in geology, obviously the market was very focused on Nevada and Clayton Valley. Thanks, LIX, for a little while. And then a lot of companies, including LIX, went down south and found larger pastures, leading the market, I think, to assume maybe the Clayton Valley was not happening. Where do we sit on that in terms of actually on the ground right now? Is it genuinely across the board going to happen, or is there only a few companies there that are likely to actually extract anything?
Over to me again. So Clayton Valley is an interesting place. You've got a $10 billion company being Albemarle, a large chemical company out of the United States, that is surrounded by many, many juniors, including us, Pure Energy and many others. And the conversations we've had with Albemarle, I can tell you they're frustrated with what's going on, but are we an immediate threat to that basin? I don't think we're an immediate threat to that basin because it's not their best asset. What I think we are, as technology unlocks the value, not unlike, I make the example to the shale revolution in the United States. You had a bunch of conventional assets in Texas and others producing most of the production out of the United States, and then the shale revolution happened. Technology allowed you to extract oil and gas from the shale zones, and you had a lot of output come from it. It's not any different now. This is an area that needs technology to work and be a robust environment, but as an investor, and as we put this company together, LithiumX in particular, sometimes it's good to have a little bit of a chink of the armor of the big player, because it could be part of the reason they end up taking you out and creating a lot of shareholder value. So I think it's a slow development in Clayton Valley, but I do think it's a valuable piece of the pie to have in a company.
I think that Clayton Valley, the one thing to really keep in mind is that while you have a lot of companies that have staked ground there, you need to keep in mind that you have to have a property that has the ability to actually go into a commercial production. You need the size, you need the scale, and of course having a quality brine or quality lithium extraction certainly is something to have in order to actually have something that's feasible on a commercial level. Certainly technology is going to help to extract the lithium in a much more efficient manner, though.
So I've certainly found in the last 6 months at my company, Equity Guru, we cover a lot of sectors, but specifically the energy metal space recently. We've been getting in a lot of calls recently from cobalt companies, manganese companies, and even graphite starting to rear its ugly head. Do you guys see yourselves as purely lithium players, or do you see that there might be an advantage over time in expanding out into other energy metals?
Well, there's certainly room for partnerships, but I would say as individuals, it's complex. It's not simple. Everyone is different. We have plenty enough work to do with developing a lithium resource. I myself am on the board of a graphite company, but my full-time day job is here in lithium. My background is in industrial minerals and chemicals, so that's what gives me the sort of the breadth of the scope to address all this. But do look for somebody who's going to focus. I think Waldo and I are focused in Argentina, and right now us with a flagship project. I think Waldo with one flagship project too. There's plenty to do.
Yeah, I would like to call the attention of people about lithium projects. Really, they are more a chemical company than a mining company, okay? In our project, we have 6 chemical engineers, 2 PhDs in chemistry, and 2 geos. There is no blasting, there is no rock movement, there is nothing that really relate a lithium brine project to mining as we know mining, okay? So when you really have to take this kind of expertise into a team, it's really a very different expertise than the classics mining for cobalt, for manganese, and so on. There is more relationship within mining other metals than with lithium. Lithium really is a chemical company, and as such, you need to treat it as such,
So currently, the world lithium supply is met by the large companies, and we obviously know it's going to go up as solar panels require and Tesla requires and wind turbines require, and my kid keeps draining my cell phone playing Pokemon Go. When are we going to get to a point where the lithium demand actually outstrips supply, or are we going to get to that point? How do you guys poke your head through that existing situation?
We're there. We are there.
You're there?
We're there, yeah. You're at well over 90% capacity utilization on lithium. Literally, there's almost panic in the streets in some of the markets. We had buyers this year who were waiting out the lithium companies for their annual contracts because they saw some new capacity coming on. You know, it is not a huge market, but you know, you're only using a very little bit of lithium for any given battery. So every molecule is important. You know, with the announcement of 2 projects coming on, bringing on some 12,000 tons lithium carbonate equivalent this year, there were some people saying, well, you know, the growth is going to be met in 2017. It'll be in balance. Well, it's not. It's actually, you know, these projects, as a lot of projects do, came on a little slower than you would expect. And the market actually grew faster. We were expecting a 6.4% compound annual growth rate. Would only have meant 11,000 new tons last year, but it's looking like it was more like 20,000 tons. So, you know, we get to the end of the year, the annual contracts haven't been written. Annual contracts came in at what the spot prices were last year. Spot prices are now through the roof. And, you know, I personally expect to see very strong prices through the mid-2020s.
Consensus there?
Yeah, I think the good news is, from all the intel and discussions we've had, there's a lineup of offtake partners, and I think it's for multiple projects. I don't think there's one winner. I think there's a select group of winners, but as Ian said, the spot price is getting pushed up by demand. It's a natural thing. But the lithium contract is 6 to 12 month contracts, which is still lower. But I think you're going to see the gap go up towards the spot price. Maybe not reach the $22,000, $23,000 spot price, but move up from that $10,000 to $12,000 per ton contract and go higher. And keep in mind, this is the really important thing for lithium in a battery. You may hear that it's a small component of the battery, a very important component, but it's also only 3% of the cost of a battery. So the substitution effect for a manufacturer, they're not looking for an alternative material to replace because it's such a nominal amount of their final product. So something to keep in mind that you could have upward pressure on the pricing for years to come and still be under 10% of the final cost of the battery.
Another thing to point out is that the lithium battery, it's taken 20 years of research and development to get to the point where there's safety standards that have to be met. And there's a certain amount of maybe new technology that's coming. There's never going to be, there's going to be obviously an increase of other research development within the lithium component, but the entrance to market is already there. Tesla is certainly implementing that as well. Another thing to point out is that the lithium is not a traded commodity. It's a negotiation between the producer and the end user. And you're certainly seeing with the oligopoly that they've driven up the price. And what you can do is there's a lot of other there's a need for the negotiations between smaller producers, and there's that window for an advantage for a producer such as outside of the oligopoly to take advantage of that.
So there's long been an expectation that the first lithium juniors that stick their head up, that the majors will just come in and take you guys out to keep the oligopoly going. Do you get any sense that that's a reality? Have you had any taps on the shoulder at all?
I think we're seeing it in the last week. There was some of that. There were 2 major deals announced for Waldo's old company, Lithium Americas. We saw two really big deals come in with Ganfeng out of China, who took a big stake in Lithium Americas, and then followed by Bangchat out of Thailand. We do hear a lot of noise on the street about larger companies and other strategic players who are keeping an eye open for the really serious projects.
There's noise on the street and there's noise in the back office. Anything then from the other side of the table there?
I'd say one more thing that might be surprising, but I wouldn't be surprised if maybe even an oil and gas company. Ian mentioned, or Waldo mentioned, that we're a chemical business. Well, oil and gas is petrochemicals, and the oil and gas companies, the super majors, Shell, Chevron, Exxon, they've ventured into wind power before, and solar power, and to uranium and nuclear. Albemarle being the big player at a $10 billion market cap, and all these companies north of $250 billion market cap. I wouldn't be surprised if someone maybe even knocked on their shoulder at some point, as lithium looks like a huge growth curve huge growth business for not only Albemarle, but could be for some of these major players. So, and as Ian said, one of the companies that came into Lithium Americas is actually an oil and gas based Thai company. So it'll be interesting times the next 12 to 24 months.
I think it's interesting that walking around the floor, I don't think I identified one oil and gas company out here. Maybe that's sort of an indication of where things are going. Do you think that there's potential also for the end users, beyond just battery makers, but electronic companies to start locking down their own partners in terms of making sure they've got supply going forward?
Not only electronics, but ceramics and other, small battery-powered production as well, manufacturers.
So we're not just talking Tesla, we're talking everybody, basically.
Yeah, Dyson is currently implementing they've purchased actually another battery manufacturer for that purpose, and they're looking at using lithium in all of their manufacturing.
So the Dyson is not going to get any cheaper for me. So the last thing I wanted to say, we've got 3 Argentinian plays here. I wanted to get Waldo briefly to explain to me about doing business in Argentina. There's a very heavy sort of government element to it. There's a lot of areas where the government controls who's allowed to do business. What sort of traps are there for an outside player to go into Argentina and then decide they're going to do business there?
Well, in Argentina there have been dramatic changes with the new government in the last year. Okay, so while Argentina was a very difficult country to work on, just in 12 months, almost all restrictions were lifted. So right now, Argentina is a very good place to work. Just for the sake of the example, our project was discovered 1 year ago. We are now not only working, but we are fully permitted, environmental permit. There is a free flow of money going in and getting out, something that it was limited in the past, as well as acquiring products, imported products, to bring it into Argentina for your project. So I should say that there were dramatic changes in a very short period of time, and I don't see Argentina with any significant or particular restriction, and it's plenty of opportunity because so many years of a government on the wrong side of things gave or opened up a lot of opportunities there for working new projects.
This Argentina, as you look at it now, you have to recognize it actually has one of the best mining laws in the world. And it was written by Daniel Milan and his team. Daniel Milan is the current mining secretary. He was mining secretary some 4 administrations ago. Between his time then and now, there's been some abuse, and there's been great difficulties in investing in Argentina, like Waldo said. But it changed. It changed this time last year when we had a new president come in. Entirely new business-focused cabinet. Very smart bunch of guys. They know how to get things going. We're back with Daniel Milan, in particular the province we work in Salta. We have a fantastic regional mining secretary who cuts through a lot of the BS. If you have a problem with communities, he can help you take care of it. You have a problem at the federal level, he'll take care of it. He's made Salta a very mining-friendly province. That being said, it's bureaucratic. It's South America. It's a barrier to entry. If you want to get going in Argentina, you'd better find somebody who's already up and running. It takes a while to set up your company, and then it's going to take a while to get your permits. You have to have a presence on the ground. That's the advantage we had. Our whole team is on the ground. I live there. I've done it before, as Waldo has, and we can get up and running. If somebody expects to come in brand new, watch out. It's going to take a little bit of time.
So just to close it up, we're right on time. I want to give everyone 30 seconds to explain what they think their company is going to be seeing in the next 3 to 6 months. This is your chance to tell people why they should invest in you instead of the other three. I'm going to start with Lithium X.
Well, I think all the companies up here are going to rise with the rising tide of lithium. You've got to be a believer. I'm a firm believer and advocate of the entire space. But for us in particular, as Chris said, I think we kind of led the charge here out of the doldrums, and not, I'm humble about it, but I think we kind of led the charge here out of the doldrums of the bear market and presented a story that really caught the attention of not only the retail audience, but a very strong institutional audience in New York, London, Shanghai. And at Lithium X, we're very proud to have the proper financial backing and background of both Frank Juster and Paul Matizik to advance this forward without any too many stresses as we hit our PEA and our economic numbers, as well as look at a few more acquisitions. We've set out to become the pure play name in the space, and I believe we're on our way to doing that in the next more like 6 to 12 months. I think we'll make that very, very clear.
Well, in the next 3 to 6 months, we are looking at targeting a 43-101 within about a 6-month time period. We have the 4 drill holes that we're going to be drilling, and this is going to be able to obviously define the resource and the potential scope of what we actually have. Given that we have a new discovery of the sediments that are highly leachable and a high recovery rate with high ppm values, this is an opportunity to either produce our own artificial brine as well as continue to look for some of those higher brine numbers. We're certainly an undervalued company at this point in time. We are only trading at about 11 cents. And we certainly are going to be developing, once we actually have a resource to actually define, then this is going to be a game changer for us, we believe. Iconic minerals.
Okay, and me with Millennial Lithium. We're just moving fast. In the next couple of days, you'll see results from sampling in our drill holes at our flagship project. We also have our other 2 projects. You'll see rapid advancement on those. You'll probably see some other projects coming into the pipeline. We're making progress. We're doing it quickly, looking at 3rd quarter for the PEA, and moving rapidly. I have a 3.5-year goal to get from the start of the project into cash flow, which is very important. I think nobody wants to see projects dragging on for many, many years. They want to get into the cash flow. Once we get that, we can improve, we can expand.
Thank you. Well, Lithium here. Where we are drilling, we have 3 rigs on site. We just released the results of the first hole, which were spectacular. We will complete our resource estimation in the 2nd quarter, and in the 3rd quarter we will release our preliminary economic assessment. So I think that is perfect timing to invest in our company, since everything is going on right now and the results are coming out so far spectacular.
Thank you, everybody. It's been great. Thanks for coming out. If you'd like to give a round of applause to these gentlemen and lady. If you'd like to tackle them on their way out to ask any questions, I'm sure they'll be happy to share business cards with you. And for those interested, I'm doing another workshop over in Workshop 1 in 20 minutes. Thank you very much.